1, 2. Hi, Dom Famularo here. This is incredible. Another Monday, Mapex All Access, which we have going on. And Mapex All Access offers you so much information as far as all the different great artists that we have with Mapex that are all these fantastic players that have dedicated themselves to the art of modern drum set playing and to we've got drum corps guys, we've got classical players. There's so many different percussionists that we're able to use this vehicle of this live on Facebook, live on YouTube channel that happens on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining me. This is fantastic to have this opportunity. And Mapex also has the great Jeff Mulvihill, who'll be showcasing product and doing a variety of different talks in the future that you'll be able to be informed about. So watch all of our social media stuff and on Facebook, on Instagram, and all the different ways that we reach you on our website, mapexdrums.com. Join us, be a part of it. This is fantastic to have you here. I have got people already joining me. I've got Aristotle. Aristotle, I'm not sure where you are, but anyone that's here, please let us know where you're from. Also, Pedro Barahona is on here too. And I know he's from Chile, a fantastic drummer who I've worked with in the past. He's actually been to my studio, so we've got people visiting us. But this artist that I want to bring to you today is a fantastic player that I had the chance to go by and check a lot on YouTube and the internet. Rock solid. His deep pocket is so great. Would you please welcome Mr. Kareem Thompson? Bring it in.
What's up, Dom?
Kareem, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing amazing. How you doing, man?
I am fantastic. I love the name Reem. I love Reem.
Yeah. Reem, yeah.
Sure
I got so used to it.
That nickname's with you for a while, right? From when you were younger?
No, not really. It's like my musician friends coming up started call my mom calls me my middle name and stuff like that, and but it's coming up. It was just Rain instead of just Kareem. I hated hearing my whole name, so yeah.
Well, this is great, man. Kareem, I get a kick out of the fact that I know you were originally from the Pennsylvania area, right?
Yes, sir. Chester, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
From Chester, Pennsylvania. Fantastic.
Yes, sir.
At that time, when did you first start? You were young when you started playing drums, right?
Yeah, the normal 1, 2, walking around the house, banging on stuff and, beating on my mom and dad, pots and pans and stuff like that, banging on lamps, to jumping into church.
So, that's the church. The church thing now is always so impressive. Going to church, you were there. They had live bands there in church, right?
Yep. So it was I didn't really get to play like that at church though. Because I didn't hit hard enough. So I only got to play during offering time or at the end of church, stuff like that. And then I started playing with the youth choir, and then I started holding down the whole services and stuff like that.
So how old are you so you're young, you're going to church, you're hearing the different drummers performing, right? So you're being influenced by them.
Yes, sir. I was influenced by my goddad, which was the drummer at the church that I played for, and also my Uncle Ernie. He passed away a decade ago, and I was really into his drummer, and that's who taught me how to really do the tricks and do the chops and stuff like that. And I looked up to Mint Condition a lot. That was my favorite band. So I watched a lot of them, and he started putting me on Dave Weckl and stuff like that. And then that's when my mind just started changing.
Well, Dave Weckl has that kind of magic that once you put little Dave Weckl into your mind,
everything changes. Everything changes. Everything. Yeah, man.
So, when you were younger, when your first gig then was in the church, your first playing,
Mm-hmm. Yep, I was in the church, was playing for the church, and then I would do side stuff with my Uncle Ernie when Jason Coleman couldn't make certain gigs. I was able to play them, so that was those were my first gigs. And then I started playing for a youth choir, a local youth choir in Chester, Pennsylvania called BLC and God's Chosen. So that was my little mark on actually first playing for somebody. That was my gig.
So you started meeting other musicians, and now you're getting together and you're playing with them, you're jamming with them. Were they all your age?
No, man. Actually, I had to, because where I'm from, it's real small. You know what I'm saying? So there's not too many musicians where I'm from. So I had to go to Philadelphia. So once I started going to Philly, you think you good until you hop on somebody either your age or older because there's something in the water there. You know what I'm saying? So I learned to adapt, and that I kind of like they like turned into like my second home because the sheds and everything happen there, and you can see your greatest musicians, get to sit down with them and shed and stuff like that, and we just became friends, and they like kind of like adopted me. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of people normally say like you from Philadelphia, but it's because I even played for a gospel choir, a dude named Zach Williams of One Accord. I played for them for years, and they're from Philly. So most of my life was back and forth to Philly to go to jam sessions and stuff like that.
So how far were you outside of Philly where you were living?
I'm like 15 minutes. I'm like in the middle because I'm like in the middle of Philadelphia and I'm in the middle of Delaware. So
nice.
Yeah, so I had to.
In Philly, there are some phenomenal musicians that have come out of Philly, and some incredible drummers too that have come out of the Philadelphia area, which is absolutely incredible. I mean, these guys like Questlove, these guys are like legends,
amazing legends,
really legends. What they're doing. So you're young, you're starting to play with these different musicians, and what kind of music are you playing with them?
Things normally change in clubs because now we normally playing like hip hop songs, grooves, like neo soul, and then if you like shedding or something, it was like normally like fusion with some crazy hits, so you can get 8 bars, and it's like 5 drum sets around in a circle. You know what I mean? And that's when I really got introduced to Mapex because I used to go to a shed called Selah Shed in New Jersey, and Rashid Williams had a Mapex, and that was like my first time really seeing a kit like that. And then when I used to go to Lil Daryl and Boots, Lil Daryl always used to have a shed like every year at his church, and there was nothing but Mapex drums everywhere. You know what I mean? So it was like those drums always sounded so good. I just never really like owned them. You know what I mean? But once you sat down on them kits was like they were all superb. The colors on them, the finishes were incredible, and they sound amazing.
It really is amazing.
Sound amazing. Yeah.
This company has done so much with exactly what you said: the sound of the drums, the design of the drums, the different woods that they have, the finishes. As we're looking at them right now, the finishes that you have now. This is like furniture.
Yeah, it's furniture. Furniture for real. That's how I keep them in my room. I keep them like stacked up, and it's like I just be looking at them like, "Dang, man, I'm sorry, I got to take y'all off a tour again. I wish I could just polish y'all, just leave y'all over there,
So you mentioned Rashid Williams. Rashid is a dear friend of mine who I've known for many, many years. And he is just such a phenomenal player, and
he's great.
John Legend, he's been doing John Legend's gig for many, many years. Just a great musician. He's living down in Florida now. And it's just great that you had him to be able to have an influence. So you're playing with these different musicians, you're jamming with different drummers. Are you taking any lessons at all? How were you learning all this stuff?
What I would do was, man, I used to like listen to like Celine Dion, like Hootie and the Blowfish, different Jamaican artists, and I would literally sit in my room. So what I so for instance, like when like Boots and like Spank and like Lil Daryl and different people would hop on, I would just sit and watch. And what I would do was I would just go home, or just whoever like would, because every drummer had a night at a shed, and whoever had that night, I would watch what he did, and I would just go home and just interpret it into different songs in my own way. And I kind of like just learned that on my own. And then when Jason started teaching me like how to like read and do different things like that, it kind of opened my mind on how to incorporate different kicks to make a roll sound different, or use my hands period to make a roll sound, and just figured out different ways around the kit. A good friend of mine told me one time, he was like, "Man, you have a way of not doing the same roll, because I always think about how I started off that last situation." You know what I mean? So it's like I'm still learning these drums every day. I feel like it's an instrument that you cannot stop learning. So it's like to this day, now I get to watch these kids, man. They're like destroying. I'm taking stuff from them too, and just practicing, interpreting on my own in my own way, and just figuring it out. And I wanted to figure it out. I wanted to figure it out bad.
Boy, that desire and that passion really has kind of, I think, been a
Yeah.
major part of your push, because you figured it out, and as you said,
Yeah.
you're still figuring it out. But tell me about Jason Coleman. You're talking about as far as some of the teaching. What was he showing?
Oh man, he is the one who like really put me on to like Dave Weckel and like and not just Dave Weckel, like Jocko and like different bass players, just like Bela Fleck and the Fleck tones and like stuff like that. Like I was listening to those people when I was 12, 13 years old. You know what I mean? Just learning how to just play solid with a band, learning how to put the rolls in there. I mean, don't get me wrong, Dom. I had my moments where I was no pocket at all. But then I immediately got out of it because I started watching like mature guys play that I knew had chops and would play a session so clean, or would play with an artist so clean. So those are the things like I like learned from Jason, like, and it was like I learned all my paradiddles and how to, you know, sing with them and put them into a beat and put them into a pattern. And, you know, and once it was like one day he was like, man, I don't even have to teach you no more. And he just stopped teaching me. You know, and then that's when I like started. A good friend of mine, he passed away, named Thomas Clay. He used to take me to all of the sheds. He's the reason like I know half of Philly, you know, and all of these great big drummers in the world is mostly because of him, from him taking me to these sheds and like showing me off, like, this is my little bro, let him hop on and stuff like that. And I just started building relationships with people.
So he kind of acted as a mentor to you then, right?
Yeah, like he took me under his wing. He seen something in me I didn't, you know, because like I said, I didn't grow up around a bunch of musicians. I didn't have that luxury. I grew up in, you know, in the hood where drums was loud. It was like, oh, there go that boy banging again. It is, you know what I mean? In this house, like, ain't nobody really, you know, nobody really cared. None of my friends were musicians. You know what I'm saying? They were all just regular people in the streets and stuff like that. So I had to like break myself away from that and start surrounding myself around musicians, you know. So, and it just changed everything.
So when you started hearing these different players, you know, and you mentioned also Dave Weckel. I mean, so these different players, Jocko, these guys, you're starting to hear some music and you're starting to figure out the balance of technique and pocket.
Yep.
When to use this technique and when to just groove. You know, that takes a lot of discipline for sure.
Yeah, for sure it does. It's sure, because, you know, being a kid playing pocket is boring to you. You know, just sitting there playing boom, that, boom, that. It's like, oh my God, this is so boring. But in reality, you're not thinking about how good this feels to everybody. To the bass player, because to the guitar player, to the keyboard player, to the singer, or whatever. Just the more so foundation of the groove that you're playing. You don't realize it because you just want to go off, or you're thinking about the different drummers that you didn't listen to the past couple of days. So you want to try something out. When it's like, you know, it takes time for you to mature and realize like it feels good sitting right there, you know, and just playing your part. And it's okay if you know, you don't have to interpret a role in everything, or it's okay to stay there.
Well, that's such a great, you know, and you mentioned maturity. It really is a maturity that we have to go through as individuals to find out what is best for the music. And where does the fun of drumming have to be controlled? You know, drumming is really fun, and sometimes we want to fill every hole in the music with some kind of a drumming stuff. But we learn in time that there are masters that have made an incredible living in doing this here professionally for all these years. So, who was your first professional band where you started going out and working?
My first professional band, and the crazy thing is, it just came up like it was about like 11 years ago. I started touring with a play. My uncle Tony Thompson was like the MD. He's a keyboard player, great songwriter. He actually plays like all instruments, but keyboard is like his main thing. And he put me on to this play called like Why Do Women Cheat? Why Do Men Cheat? And the crazy thing is, the picture just popped up. I gotta send it to you after this interview. But the kit that I was touring with them with was this, but it was the older Mapex. It was like literally like crazy when I looked at this kit. I'm like, dang. And now that I just got signed with them, this was my first kit.
Oh,
that they gave me, and I was like, man. So that was like my first thing. Only thing I didn't like about that gig is that I'm in the pit. So I wanted to be seen. You know what I mean? I didn't understand. I didn't understand at the time how plays work. I'm sitting up here like, why are we not on the stage? Like, what, we in this pit, don't nobody know who we are. You know, when they announce at the end of the play, it's like they say on the drums, Kareem Thompson, people just clapping. I'm like, y'all don't even know what Kareem looks like. I'm just clapping. I'm down here in this freaking curtain, with this little TV, man. But it was fun. I made some good money. That was like my first time, man. I played a play for like 2 years, like 3 years. I played that play.
So where was that play? Was it stationed anywhere, or was it touring?
Yeah, we toured a couple of places. Yeah, we would do it in big theaters and stuff like that. So it was fun, man.
So
it was a fun experience.
You were like 17 at the time?
Yes, sir. Like 17. Yeah, 18.
Man, so
17, 18.
Fantastic experience.
Yeah. I'm playing with some older guys too. Like I'm playing with some like seasoned guys. Like the first time you do anything remotely raw, they're like, yo, that's too much. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm playing with some seasoned guys here. You know what I mean? So
and you had to play the play the same way every night then, right? You had to legitimately play it exactly.
Every night I had to get mallets and stuff, different sticks at the time. I didn't even know about it. I didn't know about brushes and stuff. I was used to sharing and playing it like, you have to make thunder sounds. I don't want the cymbals to sound that loud. It's like, oh man. So I had to learn how dynamics, at its best doing that. You know what I mean? And that really like molded me doing that play, yeah, for sure.
Well, what a great school of learning that is, hit the road and just start to work. And so was the touring, near where you were? How far were you touring with that play?
We were touring through like different places, Baltimore, Virginia, different parts of Delaware, Jersey. Like it would just go all around for a little bit, but he would always start in Delaware, and then because that's where he was from. So he would do like different theaters in Delaware and stuff like that. And casinos and stuff like that. Yeah, it was cool.
So you're that young, you're starting to play, you're hitting the road, you're playing in different venues, you're playing at different, and each venue is different. The setup is different, the sound sounds different. So you have to adapt to all of that at the same time. And doing a play like this is like a Broadway show, man. You're in the pit, you're working, you're putting your time in.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, and what kind of music was that play? Was it a variety of different types of music?
Yeah, it would be different types of music because sometimes they'll bring in like a big artist that has like a hit single and we'll have to learn her song. Or sometimes the artist may be or an actor that you didn't probably know can sing from watching them in movies can sing. So I didn't never really realize that a lot of actors still do plays too. You know what I mean? Like big actors. So, sometimes we have to learn like a slow song or a fast song or something that it's one of their actual songs.
Right.
So it was like a variety of different stuff, depending on the scenes, what was going on.
Well, how interesting. So at this time, were you listening to any kind of music also? On your off time, was there any music you were taking in?
Yeah. Well, at the time, I still was. I was pretty much listening to like I was listening to music that I didn't play, if that makes any sense. Like I would listen to crazy jazz records. I would listen to crazy fusion records, or I would listen to stuff that had nothing to do with what I was playing.
What you were doing. Smart.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I was just like preparing myself, like, you know how it is, man. If I ever get a call to play this gig, I would know how to play it. So I was more so on that type vibe, and play rehearsals are so long. So once I got out of them, I did not listen to that music at all because it was so much embedded. You're talking about 5, 6 hours, 7-hour rehearsals, as a kid sitting there. And it's like, why do we have to be here to watch the whole play happen? Just call us in. But, sitting there and, it taught me a lot. It taught me how to be patient. But I also just listened to everything.
But this happens in every situation. I mean, you talk about Dave Weckl. So during the Dave Weckl days, was that the Chick Corea Electric Band stuff that you were listening to?
Oh yes. That, and then he came out with Great Wall. Like I was learning that record. That's the only record like I listened to a lot. I listened to that record a lot. Like I can play that record right now, put some headphones on, and I'm good to go. That's how much I listened and studied, that record so bad.
Boy, that's so bad. I mean? Dave is a dear friend. I've had a many opportunity to play with him at clinics and festivals. And he's just such a dedicated student. I mean, he's still learning his craft and pushing himself, and he has set such a high standard in his playing. And but so that's great that you had someone like that to kind of steal ideas from.
Right, for sure.
Now you had other players here. Who was Bobby Z?
Bobby Z is so I'm a huge Prince fan. Like I might be one of the biggest drummer Prince fans that you'll probably ever meet in your life.
Wow.
Like no drummer watches Purple Rain as much as I watch it. I guarantee it. If we put a lie detector test on it right now, they don't know them songs how I know them. So anyway, skipping to this, my mother is a huge Prince fan. So we will always watch Purple Rain, right? And as I'm watching this movie, I'm like, this dude is not playing real drums. What is he playing? Yeah. And I looked him up and it was Bobby Z, man. And he played for Prince for some time and he used electric drums.
Right.
So as a kid watching that, I used to take my bottom, the bottom of my toms off and stuff because I was trying to figure out how his drums sound like that. And come to find out, he was one of the first to like actually play full electric kits. You know what I mean? And he would use some real cymbals and stuff like that. And his patterns and the way he played those songs, man, was like, it was everything to me. So he just like became like a hero to me because I was practicing that album, which I feel like I had to jump into his soul to see how he felt, when they played those records. And man, he's one of the greats to me. So I make sure I always like mention him because I know I never really hear a lot of people mention him or say anything about him. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I make sure.
Very underrated player, man. But his grooves and what he did, especially like you said with the electronic drums, was different. And of course, out of the brilliance of Prince to want to use a different kind of electric sound out of the drums. Prince brought out the greatness of all musicians that worked with him.
Right. He wanted the greatest for everybody. And it was crazy how they all gelled. Everybody all had their place and they made that music sound amazing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I still listen to it today. I just listened to it this morning when I woke up. I listen to it every day. I'm a Purple Rain guy.
Yeah, Purple Rain guy. It's kind of interesting because I had the chance to work with and teach, these my gosh, he passed away on July 4th. And whose name I just lost his name. Wonderful young drummer who played.
Wow. Yeah, I'm listening.
I can't think of it. I just lost his name. Dear friend, he just passed away. My gosh, I just flogged out. But he played with Prince that last tour, and just absolutely incredible.
Wow. Yeah, I fell in love with John Blackwell when he was playing it too.
That's who it was, John Blackwell. I cannot believe I just found out in John Blackwell. John Blackwell, I met when he was a young kid in South Carolina. Wow. And he played and whenever he would play in the New York area, he'd bring me down to hear and play with Prince. But I mean, Prince always had such high class musicians with him. It was just really
high class for real. Yeah, John always had that 10-inch China behind him.
Such a fluid player and such a great kid. He passed away way too young of a brain tumor, and again he passed away on July 4th. So he'll be coming up on another couple year anniversary of John leaving us. But boy, you've got some great influences. So then you go on now. You're doing this. So what was next? Now you come out of the play. What was the next band that you hooked up?
The next band I hooked up with, I actually started playing for the choir. I actually started playing for a well-known choir named Zach Williams in One Accord.
Wow.
And man, that was fun times. Like I played with them for about like 8, 9 years. I actually just did a hit with them a week ago in Jacksonville, Florida. So every now and again, they still call me to do stuff when I'm available. But that was my next thing. That's where I did a lot of traveling with that choir, to the point that I started meeting a lot of guys.
How big was that choir?
Man, it varies. Sometimes 40 people, 25 to like 40, maybe 50, depending if we all in Philly. You know how it is, dragging a choir everywhere across. So when we would travel, sometimes it would be big, sometimes it may be small. But if we did something in Philly, it was always big.
So what was it like to play with that many people in a choir? That's a whole nother different level of drumming with that.
Yes, it is. And it took me a while to understand that because I would do certain things that would throw the choir off, or Zach would have to, embarrass me on the mic in rehearsal, like, you're doing too much. You know what I mean? Because the songs, they felt so good. And I just, in my mind, something got to be right here. And they're looking at me like, what's happening? This part feels so good. Just leave it where it's at. And I didn't understand it at the time, but it got to the point I matured so much that I recorded twice with them. And I recorded on a lot of their new stuff. So I came a long way, if you were to say, with playing with a choir.
And that choir traveled,
Oh, yeah.
For a while there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for a while, like everywhere. Like I've met a lot of, to this day, right? I'm in like Nashville now, and I've met a lot of musicians who tell me that they remember me from playing with him because, a lot of musicians, even though if you tour with secular artists, we still came from, church and stuff like that. So you might see a top musician out playing with a choir or some group at a situation. So I got to meet a lot of guys around the world, literally from all over, from playing with him and, getting done, and somebody, saying like, oh, who are you? Let's link up, and we just become friends on Facebook and stuff like that, to the point that, later on in life, when you start playing with different people and coming to that place, it's like, somebody that lives there that you'd have met, years ago, or a close friend, sit down, share, or go grab something to eat and catch up and stuff like that. So that was a really great thing that I got from playing with them. Was the connection that I have.
Some really great experiences that you've had with a variety of different types of music and situations, from doing the play to the choir to that. I mean, that really kind of opens up a whole nother world. But you did some traveling. Tell me what it was like. You went to Africa and Israel.
Yes.
Who was that?
That was another artist that I started touring with him after, like a little bit after, like Zach Williams and stuff like that. Then that was like me in the secular world. Now I'm playing for a rapper that's traveling, but he was like a motivational rapper. Like he did a lot of stuff for like the youth and like the world exchange tours, Washington, DC, and the White House connected, all of that type of stuff that they send different artists out to do. So we went to Africa, Haiti, and Israel. And Africa was it was great. Like those is one of those situations I'll never forget. You know what I mean? Because I never knew how beautiful it was. Because growing up in school and stuff like that, the way they presented it, you would just think it's like a place like, you don't want to go back there. Like it seemed like it's crazy.
Yeah.
But when I got there, it was super beautiful, to the point I could personally live there.
Where in Africa were you? Where'd you go?
We went to Windhoek, Namibia, Johannesburg, Jesus Christ, Cote d'Ivoire.
Yeah.
Shoot, hold on, you gotta have me look at it, dog.
Yeah,
I feel old now. I don't even remember. I should remember this stuff. Cote d'Ivoire, Namibia, Luanda, Angola. Yeah, and those are the 4 places. So each place we played at like 5 different places there. And then we'll go on to the next place. And then the last place was Israel. And we went to Aku, Israel.
In Africa, what were the crowds like? What was the audience's reaction like?
It's huge, the whole village, because the way the concerts were set up, they would have them in the middle of like the villages, nothing goes on there. So when you see people setting up a stage and stuff, the whole crowd, they already out there through sound check and everything, trying to figure out what's going on, like what is happening in the village today. You know what I mean? So it was huge, man. They loved us. Like they love concerts, they love music. It was super, like the energy was like out of this world. The energy was out of this world there for sure.
It's amazing. I've been to South Africa in Johannesburg and many of the cities in South Africa, and I've also been to Botswana. How was it like? You get into a different country, adapting to the people, to the food.
Yeah.
What was it all like?
Yeah. I like ketchup. They handle ketchup. You know what I mean? Like, especially in Israel, they do the mayonnaise thing. I'm like, this is not my thing. So it was certain things. So I just found that one thing and I just ate that every day. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I'm not experimenting. Like one time the guys got on me and was like, man, you need to eat some alligator or something. I'm like, no, that's not happening. I'm gonna stick to what I had the past 4 days. And then when we go to the next city, I'm gonna figure this thing out. Like, and that's what I gradually did, man. I mean, I like experimenting with food and stuff like that. But it's like now it's not the time to experiment. Like I'm hungry, just got done a show or something. Like it's like, no, I'm getting what I know is good.
It really with traveling, you got to be careful when you travel. Which is a smart thing to be aware of, because listen, if you eat something and you get ill, whatever it is, man, you're on that road, you're in a foreign country, and you're done. Man, that's a tough thing to handle.
You're done.
It really is. So that's smart to be careful. So then, so from Africa you came back, or did you go from Africa to Israel? Was that?
We went from Africa to Israel.
To Israel. Wow. So what was that like? I've been to Israel, Jerusalem. It's a whole other world.
It was a whole other world. It was actually beautiful though.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, and it was a little different because you know how it is. They tell you certain parts you can't go to. You can't go certain places, without security and stuff like that. And I get it. But it was beautiful. Like the beaches and stuff were insane. Like the crowds there were insane. So it was just a good experience. And me being a Christian, number one, it was great. Like walking through those streets, it's like you can feel it. You can almost feel like something happened here. You know what I mean? Like I can't really explain it to nobody because everybody always asks me like, how's Israel? And I'm like, man, like you can feel something happening in that city. And and I like that all the different religions respected each other. Like when it came time for the Muslims to pray, the whole city stopped. When it came time for the Christians to pray, like everybody respected each other. And I just like the way that city moved. Yeah, it was real dope.
And not until you go to the city and kind of see exactly how it operates can we really understand what goes on there. What we hear in the news sometimes and how many different countries and cities are portrayed is not really what it's like until you finally get there.
Until you finally get there. Yep. You witness it. Yep.
And the food in Israel, how was the food in Israel?
It was actually pretty good. Once again, I found that one restaurant and I went there every day. You know what I mean? Like for real, man. I went there every day. And it was actually a great restaurant because it was a lot of places a lot of tourists was going to anyway, because they were like on like Sabbath or something. So the whole town was quiet when we got there. Like nobody was outside until the next day. It was like insane everywhere. So we were seeing what restaurant would have the longest line, and then that's the one we would go to because like they got to be good because they packed all the time. You know what I mean?
So from Israel, where'd you go from Israel?
I went home, and that's when I went home, and we just did a lot of spot dates. We did a lot of spot dates around like the U.S. and stuff like that. Yeah. And then that's when I started commuting back and forth to Nashville.
So you go from Pennsylvania to Nashville?
Yeah. Yep.
What was in Nashville that you felt was something that you needed to be involved with?
Well, a good friend of mine, and he's probably watching, but he wasted my time for a year, a whole year. We was supposed to do a casino hit, and we rehearsed for a whole year to not play in one casino. Wow. Right? So he always said to me, man, you my little bro, One day I'm gonna look out for you. I got you. Like I'm talking about. We did dress rehearsals and everything, thinking like we gonna get some casino gigs, and we ain't never get nothing. So one day he called me and was like, "Hey man, I know this guy named John Connor, and we wanna he got a gig that he got to do in Tennessee." He was like, give me your birth date and all of that stuff. And I'm excited. I'm like, I ain't never been on a plane. Well, I have been on a plane, but, not like this. So I'm like, all right, cool. Gave my information and came here and did a gig with him. And that was the last gig that guy did, right? So I'm like, here we go again. At least you hooked me up with one gig. So he was like, I got you. And he's a man of his word too. I'll give him that. He ended up calling me and like, hey man, it's this band named Eye for an Eye. And they great, there's three of them. They like a rap, like country, like rap, like rock. Won't you come out here and audition? The gig is yours. And I came out here audition, and I was playing with them guys for like 5 years. And that was like me breaking into the country scene, quiet as kept.
That was all throughout Nashville?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we was like touring everywhere. Like they were still building their fan base. They just got like signed to Average Joe's. So it was like it was a nice little situation for like good 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Good 4 or 5 years. And then they went downhill. And then that's when I was just back to playing at church and just doing little spot gigs here and there.
So you made the move to Nashville. You're there for several years. And you decided to stay down there.
Yeah, no, I was just back and forth.
Still
I didn't live. Yeah, I was just back and forth. Yeah, I was back and forth. Like when we would have shows, they would fly us here, we would rehearse, and then after the gigs or the tour, fly us back home. Or sometimes we would stay over because one of the guys in the group, he's like a huge producer now and writer named David Ray. He would like let me stay there. I would do drum videos there at his studio and do records for him and stuff like that. And he put me on to a lot. He's actually, after the group went downhill, that's who still kept me around Nashville. Like he would still fly me here and put me to work, studio work and stuff like that.
So it's kind of interesting because you play all different styles. So, having the ability of playing all different styles, this is a huge advantage for yourself to work different types of musical situations.
Yeah, for sure.
So you were listening to all different types of music. You're taking all these different ideas in. You're playing in these situations. So when did you hook up with Struggle Jennings?
Okay, so David Ray, who I was just talking about, he's good friends with a rapper named Jelly Roll, who's real huge out here. And me and Jelly Roll's drummer, Casey Drums, like he's a great guy. We always like stayed in contact. Like, some drummers you meet and you just be like, all right, cool, man. You were great. Your playing was great today. We play the same show and it's like, you're great. I'm great. See you around, man. Like he always stayed in contact with me. Like this kid like texts me more than guys from back home. And we don't even live near each other. Right. So I'm in Paris, Texas, doing a spot date with a rapper named Mike Manic. And I'm also playing with a gospel artist named Doobie Powell. I've been playing for him for like 2 years, but he tours like that, but he don't. So we do like spot dates here and there, but he always got work throughout the year. So I already got a plane ticket to London, to go to London for the first time in my life. Yeah. For 3 days. We were going to do 2 gigs with Doobie Powell, but first I was going to do this Mike Manic gig in Paris, Texas. I'm in Paris, Texas, and Casey calls me and said, hey, man. I'm like, hey, what's up, bro? What you up to? He was like, man, I'm in the studio with Jelly Roll and a guy named Struggle Jennings. You want to do his tour? And I'm like, he's a great guy. He's breaking me down, explaining to me all about him. I'm like, all right, cool. When is the dates? Of course, the first 3 days of the tour is the first 3 dates for London.
Oh my God.
So now here's the thing. I'm talking to the producer and he's like, hey man, we're gonna send you Struggle songs. Can you like send us some audition videos? So I'm doing Mike Manic rehearsals. I'm staying at rehearsals by myself, plugging up my phone, setting up my camera, playing struggle songs, sending them off, and doing all this. They love me. Like they're calling me back. Like they like, man, can you just play the whole album? Like let's listen to you play all day. I'm like, all right, now where you go? You know, I gave y'all enough. Let me know if I got the gig. So they was like, yeah, you got the gig. So now in my mind, I got to take I'm hyped. I'm excited. You know, so I have to go back to reality now. Like, shoot, I got to call Doobie. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh man. So, me and him, we've been friends like for years. You know what I mean? And he's also a great drummer himself and a producer. So, I just kept it real with him. I was like, man, bro, you know, this is a great opportunity for me. You know, I'd rather do this 35-day run than do a 3-day run. You know what I mean? And he totally understood it, and everything shot off from there.
How?
Everything shot off from there. Yeah, everything. Like my life, like completely changed from there.
So and the rehearsals, when you had the rehearsals, how were the rehearsals going?
The rehearsals were amazing, and the greatest thing I always tell people about my first rehearsals with Struggle is next door rehearsing with us was Anderson .Paak.
Interesting.
You know, and it was crazy because I'm in we at SIR, and my first time being at SIR, I always want to rehearse there. All the you know, Little John, seeing all Little John and Brez and all the big guys always rehearse there. It's like, I can't wait to be able to rehearse at SIR. So I'm already excited to be the rehearsing there. And then I'm in like the lobby part and I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, man, these dudes look familiar. But they were just so cool. We just genuinely talking. And then I kind of went outside with Struggle and we came back in and I heard like, I forget what hit song he was playing. I heard it and I just peeked in. I'm like, oh snap. That's Anderson .Paak. And they pissed me off because none of them knew who he was. You know how country viewers, they was like, who's that? I'm like, I don't know who Anderson .Paak is. Like, what is happening right now? If I'd have said it was Garth Brooks or somewhere, you know, y'all would have, you know, Kid Rock next door, y'all would have lost y'all minds. I'm like, yo, Anderson .Paak is rehearsing next door. They was like, cool. I'm like, cool. Like, yo, all right, man. But that was a great experience, man. And we got through the music real well. He loved it. You know, that's the main thing. You want the artist to love, you know, hearing his songs live like that. So that was a great thing.
Well, that's fantastic to have that level of traveling experience. So, you know, I got a question from Carlos Gutzman, is a wonderful drummer in the. Let's see if I got him here. That didn't come up. Let me see if I can pull him in here. What do I have here? Oh, it's not coming up.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
It's not pulling up. But his question is, he said, first of all, he said, smart move about your eating habits for sure. But he said, when you were in Africa and Israel, what was the backline right? Were you able to get Mapex drums? What was some of the backline gear like? You kind of get what you get, right?
My kids in Africa, I've never heard of them names to this day. They felt good because my thing is, a kit can have no name as long as it got some good heads on it, and you got a good ear for tuning. You can make anything sound good.
Yeah.
But Africa kits were no, and Israel kit. My first kit was actually a DW. The first one they had me playing on the first 2 shows.
Yeah.
And then the last 3 shows in Israel, it was all black Mapex kit actually. Because actually in Israel, Mapexes are around like crazy there. Like they're around.
They are. When I was there, Mapex was there. And when I was in South Africa, we had Mapex. So I mean, it's kind of interesting to see how certain areas they can pull it off and what it is. But
right.
That's fantastic. Now I wanted the next. Let me see if I can bring up. Mark Bennett has a question. Are you? For some reason, I'm not sure why these questions are not popping up like this here. Well, let me go back here and bring this here. Mark Bennett, you know, from Mapex, who's a phenomenal person that helps organize all these different shows that I do here.
You said that. Oh, that's Mark. Mark is asking me a question.
Mark Bennett, his question is, why do you start your fills with your left hand?
Because I'm actually I know how to play with both, so I feel like I got a lot more to do over here. You know, instead of clogging it and starting to hear it. So now I'm clogging it, to means I either gotta, do what I gotta do. So I'd rather start it off with the left. That means I have more room to work my right and just get around the whole kit successfully. I'm not really a cross guy like that. I do, from the way I'm feeling, I may do something off my floor tom, like that. But everything to me is like I'm going. It's like a miracle. I'm going up and down.
So you play,
around it.
Do you play your left hand on your hi-hat?
Yeah, I can. Most of the times I will.
So that's open-handed drumming as opposed to cross-handed drumming.
Yep.
And I mentioned John Blackwell before. He did both also and played open-handed. And the first one to really start that open-handed concept by playing the hi-hat with his left hand was the great legendary Billy Cobham.
Yep, absolutely.
That's interesting that you do that. So you're ambidextrous. Both hands are pretty much equal.
Yeah. Well, I played basketball, so I always had to learn that if I'm going to do a layup with my left hand, on the left hand side of the court, I have to do it with my left hand.
Yeah.
Because if you do it with your right, you can easily get it blocked. Doing it with my left, I got more room. So I learned that, and I learned how to throw football and stuff like that, baseballs and stuff like that with my left hand. So then when it came to drums, if I wanted to be fast, I knew both hands had to be equal as much as possible. Like one couldn't be weaker than the other. So that's what made me a lot of times start using my left more instead of worrying about my right, because I write with my left hand.
Boy, good for you. A lot of great drummers, and myself too. I play open-handed, and I switched many, many years ago from cross-handed to open-handed, and it just frees up my kit. And I've got my Evolution kit behind me here that I just love playing with. Freedom to get around the drums. But let's talk about the drums that you have in front of you right now. What kind of snare drum is that?
Oh man, she is. I think God made this. Like, hey, man, this is a 14 by 6.5 solidus snare Black Panther, and when I say this snare gets a lot of attention. This snare gets a lot of attention. She's amazing, all around versatile snare. But I use her as my main snare for struggle stuff. And when I say she smacks, she will lift the skirt up for sure. Yeah, she's serious. She's serious. It's a great snare, man. Such a great snare.
I believe that drum is maple, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah, man, she's super pretty. I don't know if the people can see her. She's
absolutely gorgeous. But the Mapex makes such beautiful drums.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And this is the kit that I toured with. So she finally got to see 24 states.
Which kit was that?
This is a Saturn.
Nice.
Saturn Scarlet Red 10, 12, and a 16.
That's a Saturn
by 18.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yes, sir. And she's very, very powerful, another versatile kit, because when I first played her, I was playing for buddies of mine that moved to Nashville from Louisiana, and they do rock music. So I actually, when I first got this set, I tuned it low and played their gig, and to hear how perfect it sounds with them. And then when I had to tune it up, for struggle stuff, it was like, man, these kits are crazy. And I got the little bop, the Mapex bop kit, Bonewood. And this kit is also powerful, super powerful.
How big is the bass drum with the bop kit?
18 inches.
An 18-inch bass drum, and it sounds. Yes, I've heard that kit. It sounds.
Yes. She's crazy. I practice with it a lot, but she's insane. For sure. It's a great kit. Great drums.
How amazing that you, as a young kid, you were influenced by Mapex, by hearing them and having that. And then next thing you know, you're meeting up with someone like Rashid Williams. And the next thing you know, you're endorsed with the company and this is pretty powerful what you've done.
Yeah. It wasn't even Mark is such a great guy, Jerry and all those guys over there at KHS, man. And I just thought morally, I was just going to see a factory. Because I was a fan of Tama, because you know how where you live at and where you from, you always go over what the older guys was playing. So seeing Little John and Briz and Spank and different people, playing Tama, those was the drums you seen a lot. Just like when you would go to Jersey, in New York, everybody playing DW because of Gerald Hayward and stuff like that. You know, us young guys mostly played or wanted to play what we seen our heroes playing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't until like when I went to the Mapex house, I was chilling with Rashid and Mark was there. Like I didn't even know who he was. I just was like, oh, this is some guy chilling with Rashid. Like I had no clue who this guy was, right? So we just talking drums. Like, you know, Mark is like checking me like, so what do you like about that? Like, what is it? You know what I mean? What, you know, and it was like we was going in, and it's like, I tell you what, Monday, here go my number, hit me up Sunday night, come through the factory. And I'm just excited to go into a factory. I never seen a drum factory in my life. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm like, dang, I get to go to a warehouse. So he took me through there, man, and everything changed. Like seeing the way drums are really made and seeing all the stuff they had coming out and the older to the new and just seeing how everything works, man. And just most of all, the relationship. You know, when you just click with somebody, it's like, man, like, I feel like we like friends now, even though he's like my rep. It's like, no, bro, you my friend. Like, you know, I can call you for advice for anything now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it ain't just about drums, you know what I mean? Like, so.
He really is a great guy. But all the people that are at Mapex are just good people. They're dedicated drummers. They are there to help out. Yeah. They make a phenomenal product that sounds good, that looks good, that holds up within the intensity of our playing. And, Mark is one of those guys that's a pretty special guy here. You know, who is this? We've got, well, for some reason, the word, there it is. Tanisha Wilson, congratulations, great interview. Who's Tanisha?
Thank you.
You know who that is?
No, I think that's somebody who supports like my outlaw drummer stuff. Actually, she I have an outlaw drummer like brand now, so I have shirts and all of that. And actually, she did a killing photo shoot for us, like in the snow and everything. Like she supports the brand. So I gotta make sure I send you out a shirt too.
A real serious fan. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, you've got people that have really been, I mean, my gosh, you're just from, you know, all around the world. Like I said, from Chile, from Argentina, from, my gosh, the UK. I mean, you've got people from upstate New York, of course.
Oh, wow.
So you've got a wide variety of people that have joined us on here that's pretty powerful. You know, and I'll tell you something, Kareem, you've done a great job with just, you know, how you presented yourself and how you really, you know, lay down the groove for each musical situation that you're in, man. You really give 100%.
Thank you so much, man. I try not to get nothing more, nothing less. You know, I've been through a lot, you know, in my life, and I feel like these are my outlets. So, you know, when I sit on that throne, nothing else matters, you know, at that point in time. So these got me through a lot. It still get me through a lot. You know what I mean? So drums are a great thing.
That is the dedication of a great musician, which you're doing that. You're really the future guys. You really are the young 21st century players that are out there gigging and playing and moving this business forward. And now that this pandemic is kind of opening up some more, there'll be some more gigs that are opening up, and we're all going to get back into the action. So if you ever get to the New York area, you make sure you give me a call and let me know, and I want to come down and meet you in person.
I'll be calling you in a week. We start tour July 15th, and we're coming to New York.
You make sure you give me a holler, man. It would be great to catch up with you. Fantastic. Well, I wish you the best of luck on behalf of Mapex and our channel here, All Access. It's great to have you so much. Thanks for sharing your stories. Thanks for sharing your drums with us. And mostly, thanks for sharing your spirit with us.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Dom. We appreciate you, man. You put in a lot of work in this industry, man. We're grateful that guys like you are still here with us and still healthy, man, and still playing drums and still doing great interviews, man. So,
well, listen,
we appreciate you just as much.
That's very nice, but I'm inspired by you young guys, man. So you guys are kicking my tail to keep me going. And that's exactly what I needed. So thank you so much. Stay well, and we'll touch base soon, Kareem. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man.
All righty. Bye-bye.
All right, peace.